Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Powerful on Purpose. This is another in our series of the author journey where we give you a look behind the scenes of what it takes, what you need to think about as you begin writing, you want to relaunch a book, you have an idea. I'm Leslie Capps, your host, and today's episode is going to be a little bit different because I want to talk directly to those of you who know there's a book inside you. So if you've ever been told the advice to just start writing, I think there's a good chance you begin given the wrong advice. And why I believe that? Because that's exactly what I tried to do for years. So a little bit about my story. I recently recalled a professor in college told me, you should never be a writer. He said, maybe a journalist, but never a writer. And I was a little taken aback. But in retrospect, especially after that, because I did write a book in the traditional way, the traditional advice, and it really was exactly what I experienced in college. This sense of I had so many ideas in my head. I visualized the scenes and everything. But when it came to getting it on the paper, total disconnect. And it was so frustrating for me. Also found that with a book, right? That the things, the words I had in my head, I could not get those out. And so that experience was quite miserable. And it really nearly convinced me I wasn't a writer. Never thought about writing again. And then I got an opportunity to pitch a book idea to take to an event. Now, I think all of us are experts, right? Especially for online business, even if we're a business owner. For crying out loud, you do 9 to 5. We are all experts. So I knew I had the content, and I knew if the pitch was accepted, that I would have 30 days to write a book. So again, we're back to just start writing, never worked for me. So how am I going to figure this out in 30 days? Because it was an opportunity that might not come back around, right? I thought it's worth it to try this opportunity. Pitched the book idea, got accepted, had 30 days. But really what I realized was that 30 days forced me to make some decisions instead of endlessly thinking, right? It forced me to really address some of the things that would set my book up for success on the front end instead of just writing and hoping I got to the goal in 30 days. And really what I discovered was I really didn't have a writing problem, that a decisions was a lot of it, right? Like, who is this book for? What do I want people to get at the end? How is that journey look? What belongs? What doesn't belong? If you have started writing a book, you know that those decisions are endless on the front end, right? Well, what is it going to do for my business? How do I include opportunities for people to come into my world after the book, during the book? How am I going to get reviews, right? The decisions can be very overwhelming. And so when we take this advice of just writing, we get to this point where we stall out because now, after working with a lot of authors, what I see over and over again is we stall out. We've got 10,000 words, 50,000 words, but now we can't even follow the train. Where is this book going? Like, I've got 50,000 words. It's only 2 chapters. Holy moly. Now I have a problem, right? Because I have probably 150,000 words more content, but I don't know how to fit it in. Or people saying, okay, I've got 3 books that already in mind, so I just need to start writing. Okay, what goes in each book? What is the promise of each book, right? So you can see as we just start writing and trying to wrap our arms around all the content we have in our heads, in our Google Docs, in our podcasts, in our masterclasses, in our workshops, goes on and on and on. It gets massive very quickly. Because my advice is always, we got to go back to the beginning. We got to make some decisions about the book before we understand how to move it forward. I've also seen people rearranging outlines forever, right? Well, maybe this should go there. Maybe, and again, the decisions. Because one of the other things I believe is for us to evolve, and our book has to evolve as well. And things will shift and change as we write and get deeper clarity on our topic. Because I guarantee you that is definitely one of the outcomes of writing a book. And this idea too of solo, writing a book is a solo event. To a certain extent, it is, right? No one else can create that content for us unless you have a ghostwriter. And even then, you have to give them the content. You have to read it once they produce it to make sure it sounds like you. But I believe there's such value, and part of why I'm such a huge fan of beta readers, right? People reading either alongside you, after you, but testing ideas, titles. I can't tell you how many people say, well, I don't want to give away the title yet. Okay, not sure what that is about, but when I was writing my book, Turn Your Story into Business Gold, it totally different title, right? I had the idea of pitch like a girl, and I was in a networking group. I mentioned that title. Someone messaged me and said, there's a title just like that. Okay, throw that title out. As it turned out, the book evolved and took a totally different direction, and that title wouldn't have worked anyway. But so testing our ideas, talking about our book, one, it gets us excited, it gets other people excited. They come along for the process, right? So I've really become convinced that before anyone writes chapter 1, there are really 4 decisions you need to make. And over the next few weeks, I'm going to unpack each of those decisions because I believe writing a book requires us to claim our expertise. It is transformational for us. So if you've ever thought, maybe I should write a book someday. I have all this content. I have all this knowledge that I want to share with other people that could benefit them. At the end of the day, sure, we write books for our own needs and our own desires, but it's really because we want to reach more people. We want to help others move their lives, their businesses, whatever it is, forward in a positive way. But if you've ever thought, maybe I should write a book someday, I don't think your problem is lack of expertise. I've seen this over and over again. We are experts. But I think the problem is knowing how to turn that expertise into a book that truly serves you and your reader. So if this resonates with you, I'd love to have you along for the journey. Either way, be sure and subscribe because we will continue to provide more powerful conversations with women who are using their stories and purpose to make the world a better place, as well as behind the scenes lessons on what it really takes to write a book that impacts you and your readers.